stories unfold, and the chat's got soul. From the gavel to the gas, we're watching it all. Covering the courtroom, big case or small. Laugh when we can, cry when we must, but it's all real talk, you can count on us. We're not the pros, just fans who care, with popcorn in hand and a comfy chair. And every twist, we're right there, together like we're all in the witness chair. This is the Broken Baker, where the trials come alive, where the chat is wild and the vibes survive. We're watching the worst of what people do, but we keep it light, yeah, that's our truth. It's the only place for crime, and it feels just right. We bring the justice talk into your night, so hit that stream, don't miss the call. At the Broken Baker, we cover it all. Oh yeah. We're just flaming with the view, but we ask the things the world wants to. Digging through the facts, side by side. Even when it's dark, we bring the light. No clickbait, no fake feels, just truth and the highs and the reels. With the chat that roasts and rise, we're just here for the case and the vibe. This is the Broken Baker, where the stories unfold, with a smile in the heart, even when it's cold. Yeah, we cover the bad with a wink and a grin. Where the real talk starts, come on, jump in. It's the only place to be, can't you see? For trials and truth, it's BBTV. The Broken Baker, where the trials come alive. Yeah, we'll be here, trial of the trial. Yeah.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what if any you might be. And welcome to a stream where Lexi the Law Nerd made all the work. And thank you so much, Lexi, for letting me use your work. It's always so lovely that you can send someone a DM and say, hey, I saw you did all the research. I am a lazy bum, and my mod team, who normally do my homework, are frolicking in an airport. Not that I noticed at all. But I saw Lexi had been doing a little bit research on that podcast called Zone 7. And what I read kind of makes me go, that's my new thumbnail face. Hey, Jersey Girl, welcome. Everyone say hi. We have a new sub. I haven't been a diva all morning. I woke up. Less than an hour ago. But when I read this, I'm thinking, especially when we have watched this case, is this case really based on the facts, the evidence, and a pursuit of justice, which a case should be based on? Or is it more this one got some traction, someone who had an inside voice into the DA's office made them give it an extra look? There's especially the one part about that witness we know will pop up, but we don't know what it's going to say because the state never mentioned it in their opening statements. And it made me wonder, did this podcast help a family get a voice? Which we know very well on this channel that some online journalists can help a different narrative get a voice, because there is, what the hell is that? There is a lot of behind the scenes investigators out there who will focus on a case and give it traction. But if you get a little too close to the DA's office and you get a little too close to the police, can you also plant a bad story with them? And because of your friendship, they'll go with it. And if a witness all of a sudden after 24, 25 years remembers something, which they will touch upon just briefly in this case, um, is it a planted memory? We talked about that with Denise in the Karen Reed case. Is it a remembering the real facts, or is it something you have been talking about so much that you remember it now? I'm a little, yeah. And Happy Angry Lawyer, I can't wait for us to talk about Fulton because I don't get that place. That's really, really weird. That's not true. Catnut Williams have been covering it great. I know I am like a rat stuck in a maze running into the back wall instead of going through it. But there has been some good coverage. No, I get what you mean. That it seems like I'm already in hot water because I replied to a tweet yesterday. Well, this morning. Could someone take my Twitter away when it's 5 a.m. in the morning and I get mad? Certain true crimes podcasts, certain true crime YouTubes have a certain size and have so much weight to fling around that sometimes you're wondering a little bit, are they making the case or are they reporting on the case? And we saw it with the Treehouse case that some people, because they could have access to the defendant, went 100% on his side. There was no questions you could ask him because he was getting railroaded. He told the truth. And that's a little bit dangerous because even though I don't have any journalistic obligations, I'm just a talking head on a YouTube screen, no legal background, no nothing. I can say what the hell I want. Every trial I could say I think Zach did it because I do think Zach did it in most cases. But we also have an obligation because some of us are lucky enough that a lot of you will watch us and we can plan stories. And if someone might say, well, this happened because the dad was abusing that daughter, and the real story about the dead baby hamper was the dad had gotten her pregnant, and that's why the mom forced the younger one on birth controls. If I had gone with that and made a podcast about that, I bet you that would be a story out there because people would say, oh, yeah, that sounds totally reasonable. So there's a thin line about reporting on stuff and then doing stuff. I do hate women's. I always say that to my two daughters, say, oh, you women, says. Oh, yes. And if you need to not be on Twitter, go watch Fedorowski has a new video up today. The highest quality content on the YouTubes done by a good friend of the channel. And if you like rugged landscapes, you will love Norway. Norway is a mythical country, especially the areas Hill Gold film. It's wild mountains, it's big lakes, it's unique. So if you like videos like that, please go give Fedorowski a look because he makes some of the highest quality content. Not like this channel, but it's really good to just relax to. Oh yeah, and if you want to hang with people, watch movies tonight at 4 p.m. I don't know the movies. It's Jamie's job to tell me the movies, and she has been drunk in Chicago all weekend. Rumors has it her and Jemima went to a Chippendale show and things turned nasty. I saw the pictures. I was told to burn them, and my eyes was bleached after because those poor men. Are you calling me fat? I didn't say anything. I said if I had gone with that, there would be people who would say, yeah, it's clearly the dad who did it. And that's just to show that us YouTubers have um, way too much influence on people, because people really like to get the tea. But let's get into it, because that Zone 7 podcast, as I understand it, is a former forensic investigator who runs that. And the assistant district attorney, Adrian Love, apparently went to the scene and then she got mad about it. And I don't like DAs who get mad. I like my DAs like I would like my women. I shouldn't say that because I just got told I didn't like women. So if you make the joke paid for and no emotions, they will just say, Jamie, stop your vacation. All right. So the case, when we were out there on scene, we were able to meet with assistant district attorney Adrian Love. I know at one point I was standing there and Adrian walked from the skull to the wood line, back to where the skull was, towards action glass. And she turned around and the look on her face. And Tina walks up towards me and go, she mad? Yep, she was. And she was mad. She was mad that this has gone on as long as it did. I mean, how do you go from finding a skull in April to not finding the rest of the stuff till June? And already with this is why I instantly texted Lexi and said, hey, can I use this? Because this, if this is true, it doesn't seem like this case has anything to do with the marriage of the case. It's just that we went out there, and why is a podcaster going with the family? Well, maybe because she's a crime scene investigator, but it seems a little sensationalized. Love is far worse than anything you've seen. At some point, I think we need to do a stream, me, you, and Catnut Williams, and you can do the red strings on a board and tell me how bad Fulton is. Oh, she's the most corrupt lawyer I have ever encountered. Dang. Well, is she the one who always lied? The one who threatened people with throwing them in prison if they didn't testify the way she liked, and really tall woman, seemed really bad. But on to the next little snippet. Communicated via letter with Carl Patton, Melissa's father. So this is the podcaster is in contact with the serial killer. Per Cheryl McCollum, that's the one who runs the podcast. Carl hated being called the Flint River Killer. He does not consider himself to be a serial killer because he's not a Ted Bundy type. He has never sought someone out to unalive them that he didn't know. He never stalked and unalived somebody that he did not have a connection with. He never unalived the same victim over and over like Ted Bundy. So if you unalive your brother, you're one of the good unalivers. If you unalive your neighbor you haven't talked to, you're one of the bad ones. This sentence says a lot about the mentality in that family. He is a serial unaliver turned crime victim. How is he turned a crime victim, who turned to the detective that arrested him for help, who then turned to a non-profit for help, who then got his family to meet with DA, who was over the case. So he put as much effort as he could into solving Melissa's murder as he could. Bad English and all, but he didn't. The testimony is they did F all till he got arrested, and he looked at the detective and said, "Go find the one who killed my daughter." That's not putting effort into it. Driving up to the Waffle House saying, "Hey, have you seen your sister?" No. Well, yeah, she's missing. And then all of a sudden, you really turn up the heat in 2015 when you hook up with a podcaster. Yeah, it's remember that stupid Christmas gift your sister got you at your 8th-year Christmas? I'm not saying, but it'll be a hard time convicting you. Nancy Grace is Cheryl's best friend. Well, this was this stream. I figured out we are covering an idiot. The nonprofit did absolutely nothing, zero. As far as I can read all of this, this is a podcaster going into this case and pushing things so they can do a podcast. This is how I see it. And I bet you, I haven't seen the contract. I bet you that podcaster is also on the contract with Netflix. I bet the Netflix special will be something like a Flint River serial killer felt the tragedy on his own life when he lost his daughter. What turned into a relentless fight where a brave forensic investigator turned podcaster helped the mother and sister finally attempt to get justice. We will cover it all with special insights in the connection between Cheryl McCollum and the Patton family. We will share special insights in the communication of the reformed serial killer, the Flint River killer, who behind the scenes actually was just a normal man who did it to protect his family. So, was he mistreated because he unalived 5 people who gave him bad presents? Was the mom really just ignored because she helped her husband cover up crimes? Join us in this deep dive 2-part series on Netflix, where we will go behind the scenes with special access presented by Sarah McCollum of Zone 7 Podcast, or something like that. It's gonna be well, I had a childhood best friend. I haven't seen him in a long time. Maybe he's turned into a dickwad. Maybe he needs a little Texas justice. You never know. People change, you know. Norma made Carl promise that he wouldn't unalive Chris if it ever got out. They felt Chris had an unhealthy hold on Melissa, says the mom who forced birth control pills in her daughter because her other daughter had lost a baby. He had to lose Melissa to determine the damage he caused. This is the redemption arc. Oh my God, this is the perfect Netflix show. You have the killer who has his come to Jesus moment when his own daughter, who we will see the glam shot, we will see all the beautiful sunshine pictures from Florida. We won't be talking about, well, she met, well, yes, we will. She met Chris, and that's where her life took a turn. When she was with Chris, she found out meth is fun. People told her crack is whack, but she said, "Don't you worry, Jack. Crack is great." And she started abusing just because of Chris. She hurt her family. She destroyed her family, but still, they loved her. And deep down, this poor woman, hurt by Chris Wolfenbarger, still kept in contact, leaving small mementos at her family's home, writing cards with different writing types on every card at her family's home just to try and keep contact. But Chris wouldn't let her. Devil, thy name is Chris. Join me when I write for Netflix. Some of Carl's victims were not perfect. Some had done some really bad things, but at least two of his victims choose men that weren't maybe not good for them. And this is a German letter. I don't know why she put that in. It's a st sound. Isn't that also what Norma and Carl thought Melissa did? Carl unalived his best friend from childhood, Joe Cleveland. And then here's the other piece. You have the family members that are victims of Carl Patton. Oh, yeah. And that's a whole another level, because all of these folks were intertwined at one point. They were all friends. They were all family members. So Carl was related to Fred and Marie, and then kind of by proxy, Betty Joe. And then you got Joe Cleveland was his best friend. So Joe Cleveland is in and out of the house. Fred is in and out of the house. They all barbecue. It's a little weird cut, but thank you, Lexi. Carl was allegedly part of the Dixie Mafia, and I didn't know about that until I watched Justified. When you're done with watching Fedorowski's video today, go watch Justified. It's a wonderful show. Carl had his pew-pew and briefcase everywhere he went. But he was just a dad looking for justice. The letter is the German. The or sharp S. Yep. Thank you, Serenative. I always thought it would be a B sound because it looks like a B, so it's a the. But no, it's a the sound. There was an assumption that Chris stole the saw from Action Glass, but there's no definitive proof of he did so. No. And that also seemed very much like a planted memory when we had the owners of Action Glass on the stand. Did you remember that? No. Well, did you? Yeah, sure. The Pattons were a very loyal family unit who never liked Chris. There were suggestions that Melissa was pregnant, and that's why the torso isn't found. If she's pregnant by someone other than Chris, couldn't that person also be suspect? That's a really good point. The saw isn't even relevant given their timing. Well, they couldn't even do the timing because they couldn't tell you when it disappeared. It's just, well, he borrowed a saw. Yeah, but when? And the timeline in this case is so fucked up. And then the DA says, are you sure you didn't mean 98? Yeah, it was 98. 98. Sure. Yeah. Those who cover up murders together stays together. But we have this Dixon fella. He's going to come in and testify. He's on the prosecution's witness list, so we believe he's going to testify. Hey, Rat House. And you're up early after your late show. But is it true what the defense said in the opening, that Chris and Melissa wasn't together anymore? She had signed away her parental rights to her mother-in-law. If she... remember, she took that TRO or RO or whatever it was away from Chris. What if the agreement was, I'm coming back, I'm getting all of my stuff, and I'm moving in with Dixon? And he said, sure, I won't stop you. You go, I have the kids. I'll see you later. Don't come back. Is that why she dropped it? Because, well, no ties after that. She could go do whatever she wanted to do with her new boyfriend. And Chris said, well, as long as I have the kids, I don't care. Remember, the mom tried to make it as, oh yeah, she retracted this restraining order. She did it at the courthouse. When I read the initial articles, it was like he went to her house and talked to her and pressured her to withdrawing the restraining order. No, they were at court and had a talk, and she went in and said, yeah, I'm retracting that one. What if that was because she was moving out of the house? Couldn't that be a potential avenue you could go down? I don't know. Yeah, Mike Dixon, I think that's going to be an interesting cross-examination. The mom will be very interesting Monday to see. I think she'll crack more than the street pharmaceuticals pockets, but I don't think she can stand up. I like the defense team; they seem competent. Yeah, if she was pregnant, why would her husband have been the one that unalived her? He probably wouldn't. Well, come on. And the only thing I can come up with if she was pregnant with someone else's baby. And here I have to speak up for men. If you go to prison for a longer period of time and you come out and you have a baby bump showing, and you already signed your kids off, and you're telling me, hey, you know that fry cook? Well, we call him the frisky cook because brown chicken, wow, wow, brown chicken, brown cow. And he's not only shooting waffle batter. Well, get the hell out of my house. See you later. Why would he go from, okay, pew, 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 pew. Why would he, if she's pregnant with someone else's, they had a bad relationship. We know that. We know the neighbor talked about the yelling, even though she couldn't say when he was in the street. So this assumption that he was so jealous that she got knocked up by her boyfriend, that he would have chosen to unalive her, could have been a thing if he didn't know and they already had a bad relationship. And again, remember that neighbor never saw her with her second child. So again, another timeline that doesn't add up. It must have been way before. And do we know the DV was because of him actually doing something? Because as we saw in the Karen Tyler case, the one first in through the door at the police station is right. It doesn't matter that the other person beat you, as long as they are the first one to go to the police and say, I want a restraining order. So just because she's pregnant, I don't see that as a motive. He had the kids. He had signed her kids away. She's just been to prison. She most likely had a little bit of a drug problem. So why should he get so enraged that he wanted to unalive her? I just have a hard time seeing him as that type, because it takes a certain type who will be so jealous that his woman got despoiled, especially if they already had broken up. I I don't know. Thank you, Maria. She understands it. I need to do this. Interview with the first lead detective, Calhoun. Chris suggested maybe Melissa was on drugs. Calhoun says that based on common sense, if that was the case and she just owed somebody some drug money, they wouldn't go so far as to dismember her. But does he really know that? Yeah, how does he know that? Could there have been more to a drug use than just owing somebody money? If she was involved with drugs, could she have been selling? Came up short? These are the questions that the podcast should have asked. Lexi is doing that. And these are good questions. Can I just tie it back to her dad, who allegedly was part of the Dixie Mafia? Let's say there's a turf war going on. You have this equalizer from the Dixie Mafia, um, who you probably want to send a message to. What is a really good way to send a message to stay out of this, or you owe us money, than to unalive one of his children and then tell him, you have one more, You want her for the rest of your life, or you want to keep going. It's a great pressure point to have. As again, I know the Dixie Mafia from TV shows. I don't know how bad they are, but when you read about what happened in some of the drug wars in the 90s, dismembering someone to send a message, would that be a far stretch to do? So you know a lot about it back then. Wouldn't it be reasonable to say, hey, let's say he was the point man for the Dixie Mafia, and you wanted to say, you stay out of this? Wouldn't that be a pretty good way of doing it, especially because Tina was daddy's girl? He took the one that wasn't daddy's girl, or they took the one that wasn't daddy's girl. I'm just sitting here spitballing potential other culprits in this case. Because why would he hide the torso? Again, you can measure pregnancy in the blood, right? So just because you don't find the torso, you can still determine if the victim had been pregnant. Yeah, that was back when it was the murder capital of the US, right? So I'm just saying that it's leaps and bounds to even believe he would do this month after she already left with to another state. That's just not making sense. Well, we don't know if the California story is true, but still, if she left, remember when the rent man had screeds come clean out her house, there was only male clothes there. He didn't just, because again, when I read it, he just up and left when she disappeared. No, he didn't. Most likely, he just didn't have money for the rent, and they ran off in the middle of the night, leaving most of their possessions there. I'm saying Chris had a good reason to be afraid of her whole family. Yeah, and she could have had an OD. Yeah, we don't know. Well, apparently Dixon will be a witness, and then we get to when Fannie Willis was elected as the DA, she agreed to meet with Cheryl, and Cheryl laid out 5 cases that she thought Fulton County could solve fairly quickly. One of those cases was Melissa's case. So a newly elected DA uses a podcaster to tell her how to do her job. I don't know Fannie Willis that well. I watched parts of Starrow's coverage on the YSL. But let's just say that woman didn't leave me with a great impression. uh, Fanny told Cheryl that she was going to put together a cold case unit and a task force unit. She put Cheryl on the task force unit, and she put Adrienne Love on the cold case unit. So the podcaster who told her, hey, here are 5 cases, one of them I am heavily invested in, gets put into the cold case unit. I know she has a technical background that could help in this line of work, but what? Norma was a better wife than Peggy. Well, she loved her husband more. A witness came forward and reached out to Cheryl via social media and told her about a memory she had of Chris from the way he treated her at a party. This apparently is why we are having this case. Move. Get out the way. Get out the way. No, I can't do that. Someone heard him say something, or he did something at a party. In a 24-year-old case, they said, oh my. Does that seem like good police work? And again, reaching out to Cheryl. They didn't go to the police and say, hey, I've been living in Kodiak, Alaska. My husband is in the Coast Guard, and I have been in a brandy stupor for the last 25 years because I was living in Kodiak, Alaska. But now I am back in lovely Florida. I have been bitten by 5 alligators and 25 poisonous snakes. I can now remember what happened 25 years ago at a party where I talked to Chris. What was said was, don't you know what happened to my first wife? And the police report said that they found it non-credible and not worth following up on. Yeah, I saw you were reading some of the police reports where they, in Brennan style, of course, spelled his name wrong. Just because. Don't worry about it. But if that is all that would have said, don't you know what happened to my first wife? What? Someone else unalived her, or did he take a rabbit dick saw and say, "Don't you know what happened to my last wife?" What is this case? Then what happened was a new DA was elected. I'm just going to read the notes from so we have both Lexi's interpretation and what happened on the podcast. Then what happened was the new DA was elected, and funny, that's wrong. Willis became the DA of Fulton County. Before she took office, she agreed to meet with me, and I laid out 5 cases that I thought she could solve quickly. They were, of course, all cold cases. I should have said that one of them was Melissa Wolfenbarger, and Miss Willis told me that she was going to put together a cold case unit, and she knew who she wanted to head it up, and then she was going to put together a task force and wanted me on it. The first assistant district attorney. She put over the cold case was Adrian Love. And when I tell y'all, Adrian Love hit the ground running and went to work. She met with me and Karen Greer and Norma and Tina and Dwayne Thompson and Trey Sargent out at the crime scene. She walked it, and here's the other thing. She knew the whole story. She knew the whole family history. She knew where Carl was. She knew what had happened in the 70s. Again, seems more like a script for a podcast. She knew everything. When she went over to the car and your mama was sitting in the passenger seat and they just talked, and your mama was able to give her the victimology as only a mama can. And she watched that dog work, Trace work 2 of her canines. Seems way too emotional for me, but hey, I'm a cold-hearted bastard. And from the series that we did on Zone 7, a witness came forward. Now, that by itself to me was amazing that Nancy had covered it. Dateline had covered it. CrimeCon had covered it. All of this information is out there, and that led this person to Zone 7. Once they heard every single episode, they reached out to me on social media and said, "Are you still covering Melissa's case?" Well, honey, I couldn't tie it back fast enough. That must be some kind of Americanism I don't get. Yes. And then they said that they had some memory of the way that Christopher treated her at a party once. So now I'm thinking, y'all, this thing actually just got some new legs, which means I was about to go do drama tubing, but now I have something new. So I reached out to Shepard, gave him the information, and he was on it. I mean, immediately he talked to the person, interviewed the person, and then he went back and interviewed Christina, Melissa's daughter, and then some dominoes started to fall pretty quick, didn't they? Yep. I've been covering my first week in Fulton County, I think. And I now have the podcast who made all of this happen because of Lexi Lawnerd. You should all go follow her on the Twitter and go follow Happily Angry Lawyer. He also has a YouTube channel. Maybe one of the mods can find it. No, we're on vacation, you stupid. Hey, be nice, Marissa. Yeah, well, you didn't want to come to Chicago. I wasn't invited. Well, you gave Jamie chlamydia because you didn't scare the pigeons away. I don't know what you're talking about. This is exactly what I'm thinking. This case was deader than the dodo. And we're not talking about Dodo Dickinson. We're talking about the flightless birth in the fake country of Australia. Well, technically, it was in New Zealand. But this seems like one of those perfect podcast crimes. You have a dad with a bad history. You have a missing daughter that no one really can prove. And you can get mom and sister in there and cry. Every time there's nothing else, you can get them in there. You can send them over to your great friend, Nancy Grace, and they can sit and cry there. You can bring them to CrimeCon, maybe potentially for a tiny fee. And you can have them talk at CrimeCon, and you can be the woman who found this case, who are seeking justice, never finding it because it's a 25-year-old cold case. The chance you're finding a girl who most likely was involved with some street pharmaceuticals, chopped up, finding her killer is minimal. But it's a massively great story because her dad was a serial unaliver, and her mom and sister are willing to come on and cry on your channel. This is why I am a bad grifter, because I don't find these people. But then all of a sudden, someone who listened to Nancy Grace decides to go listen to Zone 7 and listen to all of my episodes and then call Zone 7 not the Popo, saying, hey, I remember that party, New Year's Eve 2001. I was having it was maybe for the time a little risque, and I had that bob hair, and I saw Chris and I said, "Hey, Chris," and he turned around and said, "F you! Don't you know what I did to my wife? I unalived her, cut her arms off, and threw her right across the road from my work with a saw I stole at my job." And I remember it clear as day. I, can someone who understands Fulton speak tell me why are they having this trial? If this is all they have, because they don't find any new physical evidence after 25 years. You could potentially find some DNA that someone had somewhere. That happens sometimes. You retest a grape kit or something. But then they would have mentioned it in the opening from the state. The state's opening was just, and maybe it was, someone could maybe, you know. And it makes me really wonder how much they have and how much will be, well, trust me, bro, because remember that lady who said that she heard something? Drugs can cause false memories, especially meth. Also, a main stage syndrome can also be really, really bad for memory, because a lot of people who want to be number one anywhere they are, and it doesn't matter if it's trying to self-insert themselves into a criminal case, or maybe they are trying to be in a YouTube chat, get noticed by talking about how tough their life is, or becoming a talentless hack of a YouTuber trying to hawk merch. main that mainstay syndrome can be really bad because you can make a lot of stuff up. I heard a new word today. Well, did did Sue teach you that word? Because she's one of the people who will use a word like that. This is Sunday, and it's a good Christian channel. Jamie would be really mad if she wasn't drunk, fondling a pigeon and getting chlamydia. They do have some really dumb stuff. We were promised the new witness, and we were promised some new forensic technique that could show something that looked like saw marks on a bone, is how I read the reports. But if that's all, you don't have the saw blade. And I don't know if it was a Bosch or a Makita or it was a Dremel or whatever brand he borrowed at that factory. You will have probably hundreds of millions of saw blades that potentially could fit into that machine. So how can you prove it? You can't prove this saw did that, and you don't have the saw to align it to. So as I said one day, you're having all the corner pieces on the puzzle turned the wrong way up, and you don't have any other things, but you have to believe this shows you a picture of Norvostal Castle or whatever it's called, the Disney castle down in, I think, Bavaria. Right. Yeah, but it's still, you can say whatever you want about trying to get justice, and could Chris be a potential? Yeah, of course he's on the list. The first one on the list is always the spouse. But no self-respecting DA would ever take this trial. What they have presented so far would never take this to trial unless they get a massively strong medical examiner or forensic investigator in some kind of way who can prove this. I believe this judge should throw this case out. They have not reached anywhere near where a jury could find him guilty in this case. All we have so far, after, was it 8 witnesses, is her and Chris had a tumultuous relationship. She went missing. WWE stopped by the Waffle House, screamed, and a woman who was strangely in love with her serial killer husband after he's been dead for however long. I don't know what was. I didn't like the sister. I didn't like her as a witness, because she seems like she changed her story. And again, to me, it kind of seems like more of a, hey, let's get some attention. But then you have the mother, and we only saw the direct of her. I don't even know if they finished the direct. But she can't keep a timeline straight. And I'm missing Jemima. I know she's having a wonderful time because hanging out with Jamie and Iris and FD Food Fairy is probably the funniest ever. But she's really good at and getting those screenshots that I should be doing, because those cards that should prove how close this family was and how her sister would never ever, and she always remembered mom. None of the writing on those postcards were the same, which to me is a big old red flag. Because did the sister make these cards just so mom would be happy? Or Did someone else fabricate them later? We saw the timestamp, the date stamps on some of them, and again, I don't want to try and imply anything. So I'm not one of those creators who will say, "Well, I know a thing about. I can tell when a dad does something." But I should. I'll. Jemima, do your work. Lazy, lazy women. I am working so hard every day, and these women are just riding my coattails. And with all the money I pay them, absolutely nothing. They sit there and, well, we are on vacation. We don't owe you anything. Well, maybe. Mm, 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 mm. I need the postcards. Day 2. Because that was weird to me. I'm gonna embiggen this as much as I can and find. No.
This year and exhibit record.
So, Melissa Wolfenbarger is written on the stamp up here. I believe this is the mom writing anniversary, so she knows what this is related to. And this is a. Do you call it cursive or what? What do you call it in English? We call it. I don't even know what that word is in. Well, but this is a nice readable handwriting. Then you have the same handwriting going on inside of the letter, and she's inviting them to Ryan's. I don't know what Ryan's is. I bet it's a Michelin style restaurant, and it's one of the best in Atlanta. Yeah, why isn't there a return address? I didn't notice that. I just noticed that.
Okay.
Is this the same writing as down here? It might be. Well, there's no return address on this one. It's a buffet. Oh, a Michelin style buffet. It's a buffet that was not very good. Does anyone else has the feeling that mom's sister is framing him? Yes, I think so. Call it handwritten. Well, the way she writes in here, where it's not strung together, is to me it's different than, because here she's trying to tie it together, but it's kind of like the same. She it's probably not written at the same time. Back then, you didn't have to have a return address. I always learned how that we had to do that. Happy anniversary. This year, I am going to take you my day off, meet there. Yeah, that tea is not like these teas. But when she writes this is the one I want you to notice on this one. This is how she writes the names Love, Melissa, Chrissy, and Joey.
June 6th. You and
Shut up. I just need to find the next one. Then we have this one. 1997 or 8. But this is what she sends to her dad. A card that she just signs Melissa. But is this Melissa the same as the other Melissa? Because to me, it doesn't look the same. That that Melissa doesn't look like this Melissa. Then again, her mother is putting in Father's Day. This doesn't look like the same handwriting either. And this one, you can't see the date stamped on it. This one is from 1997. Mother's Day. Again, her cursive has gotten better. Her cursive on the envelopes are way better than her handwriting inside of the letters. No, all of this is from a year before, but they got really upset in 1999 when she didn't send it to them. Well, that's just a ridiculous statement. I'm sorry to say it, Carolina. That's a ridiculous statement. You don't know anything about why he hid inside there. And I don't need to watch Cold Case Files episode because they are not under oath. We are watching what's going on in trial. Give me one thing, not what Nancy Grace, not what Cold Case Files, not what whatever her Zone 7 has said. One thing other than him hiding from being served a warrant, which probably happens about 10,000 times a year in America, if not more. What evidence have they provided he did this? This is, I'm sorry, I love that you have your own opinion, but this is a ridiculous statement that he killed her because he hid from the Marshal Service. That happens every day. No, and at the same time, she always called, but I didn't get upset till she didn't call me for my birthday, even though she had asked me to get her a special treat for Christmas because she wanted a picture of her and Pawpaw. But she didn't get that. You didn't go looking for her for Christmas? Or did she get that? And the timeline the sister was running with is actually the right one. We don't know. Oh, there's a return address on Stockbridge. It looks like Stockbridge. And then we have a new card where the handwriting, again, maybe it's just me. I'm dyslexic. Letters look weird to me sometimes. But again, this doesn't look like the same handwriting on the other cards. Am I seeing it wrong? Maybe it's because she's rushed in some of them and she has more time to put it in. But I just feel that she changes, like someone pointed out, she changes her T's. And it's just, to me, it's a little inconsistent. But I don't know. Hey, Bola. That's what I was thinking. Maybe that's why some of them are really good. I would like to match this up with her prison time, because the letter that they read from her in court must have been when she was clean. And again, I have never undertaken a street pharmaceutical course, so I don't know enough about it to how you react and stuff like that. But as I understand, being on street pharmaceuticals, I don't believe there's anymore. Being on street pharmaceuticals, you will have a lot of regret when you get clean, because one of the things that make people do drugs again and again and again is that bad feeling, because they know they effed up and they have this habit that they sadly are stuck in. And on the back end of that, you'll roll into a lot of guilt because you are leaving your children, you're stealing from your parents, you don't treat people well. So when you get clear, you want to fix your life, you want to do everything. I see it a lot in court, where we have a lot of bad people who have done a lot of bad stuff, but then they have been uh, in Denmark. Normally you won't be in prison until your conviction, until your trial date. Only if you have there's a potential that you can influence your own case. But some of these people who are massive alcoholics or drug abusers, if they've been in prison for like 6 months, they'll come out, they're better because they are in treatment, they are not jonesing for a fix anymore. And all of them are so regretful and talking about how this is ruining their family and stuff like that. And then I'll see them 6 months later, they get like a month in prison, and then they'll come out and they'll be right back in it, because this time I can handle it. So that letter talking about getting her kids back because they were with her mother-in-law, I would really like to see the timeline on that one, because to me that seems like a druggie who had a clear moment. I lost my kids because of these shitty drugs, and what do they do for me? Land me in prison. I want my kids back. I want to have that life. I want to build that family. And then you get straight out, and the rock salesman is just before the place you pick up your kid, and you never see your kids again. Yes, but I'm saying you have watched a podcast that have presented their view on this case. There have been no evidence of domestic violence in this case. There have been a neighbor who couldn't tell you at what point she heard them yelling at each other. If that is enough for you to condemn a man to murder, I am guilty of murder. My ex-wife and I have yelled at each other so much that my neighbors came in and checked at me, because I wasn't the one yelling the bad stuff. My neighbors came in to check on me. And I'm still here. She didn't kill me. And if it's because he didn't file a missing persons report, as someone said the other day, if my ex went missing, I would be the last to look for her. I can guarantee you that. As long as I have my kids, I don't care if she moved to California or she fell in a ditch. Don't care for the bitch. There has been no evidence presented in the courtroom that anyone who is objective, who is not basing it off of the podcast or the articles they have read before, would ever find someone guilty. It's fine that you are going by what you know on behind the scenes, but you can't objectively convict a man of the things they are claiming based on the facts we have been given in the case. There is simply no way you can do that, because there have been no facts linking him to the murder. There's no forensic evidence. There's potentially a saw he could sometime maybe have borrowed, stolen, we don't know. There's a family who doesn't like him, a family who had way more reasons to kill her than he had, because they were covering up her dad's 5 killings, at least 5 killings. You have her boyfriend, Mr. Dixon. What's his role in it? And is she a drug user? There's a lot there. The mom claiming domestic violence because she wore a long sleeve shirt in the heat. I went to the store yesterday. A kilometer that way, we have a big social housing project. There lives a lot of Muslims in that one. A lot of the people who are working the cash registers, but the young people are Muslim. I was served yesterday. It was one of the hottest days we have had this year in Denmark, and this young woman had her long sleeved shirt on because their religious and cultural norms says don't show your arms. I didn't think she was a victim of DV. I thought, oh, she's a Muslim. They have a cultural background that says cover your arms because it's sinful to show them. The leaps you have to make to say long arm sleeve, which could also be covering up track marks, but we don't know that, is exactly because Chris just rough trouser. Or you have to believe the sister. Well, she's been crying because I saw her and she didn't say anything, and I saw something around her neck. There's no hard evidence of any of that. There was a restraining order. Then I will counter that and say, how many restraining orders are filed in Fulton County every day? When the police officer who ran the beat that day said, I do 8 to 10 reports at night. It was a crack-heavy area. It was highly volatile in most of those houses, I'll bet you. Because if there's something drug addicts do, is fight a lot because they are wanting. Sorry, I haven't seen you were in here, Mr. Heinz. Yes, this is why I am doing what I'm doing. There's a lot of people coming in saying, hey, didn't you see this and didn't you read that? And I said, no, because I'm trying to do this based on the facts. That's why when I was doing the Karen Reed pre thing, and everyone was saying, well, you don't dare come on and discuss this with Plevin. I said, I will, but I will have one ground rule. Every single argument we make must be based on court filings, because that was before the first trial. If it has not been presented in court where the lawyers have to sign that this is true, I don't believe it. I got a lot of shit for that because didn't I hear that Sean of the Gulf said this? Yes, I did. And I didn't believe any of it because he was also just trying to get an audience, which is smart. I'm a bad grifter. But if you're new to The Broken Baker, we try to look at what has been put into police reports or presented at trial. What some podcasters said on a podcast where they, just like me, are grifting you to come back and listen, is not evidence. That is sensationalism because they want you to turn in next week. Next week, where we will be covering the Fall River murder case. Did this horrible man unalive his darling wife just because she might want to leave him? The twist of the case, her dad was a serial killer, but he got reformed. When he was in prison, his only wish was find the one who killed my daughter. The family has tirelessly been fighting for justice ever since Melissa disappeared. Well, technically, they didn't really mention it till the dad got caught and put in prison, and until they got in contact with a podcaster only 17 years later. But this family who has suffered through so much, who had a dad, a patriarch, who killed 5 people, but only people who deserved it, where the mom helped covering up these crimes, got reformed when they lost their own daughter. We will go deep into the case with new discovery. We will talk to the sister who will tell us about that night in 1999 where the WWE was at the Waffle House. Melissa wasn't there, even though this same sister claimed Melissa hadn't been at that Waffle House for almost 2 years at this point. But more shockingly, the mom will come on and tell us how Greg begged the detective to find his daughter's killer when he was hauled into prison because all he wanted was justice. Well, the 5 years he had spent from Melissa disappeared till he was arrested. He didn't do much, but he was just about to do it. Join us where we will have exclusive access to one side of the case, the family, and we will spin everything to make it look bad. Did you know Chris, a man who has a name starting with Wolf, and you know if you put Wolf in any name, it means danger. That man had a house with a secret compartment where he hid. Only a murderer would do that. And at the same house, did you know that he had a neon sign that said, "Send nudes"? Only a degenerate would have that. And this man, he had Mikita power tools at his house. And in 1998, he might have stolen a power saw. Do we need to paint you a clearer picture? Yeah. Yeah, what's the evidence? I use my podcast voice. Trust me, ask me, ask me. Zone 7 is a podcast. Nancy Grace is a podcast. Cold Case is, yeah, that's a TV show. None of that is evidence. Actually, the onus is not on his attorney. The state has to prove he killed her. So far, they haven't shown no proof of no such thing. Yeah, no. The burden is on the state. If anyone thinks that he has to prove he's innocent, you have to go back and get law school 101. The burden is always on the state, beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the bar. The state will have to prove he killed Melissa on or about this date in 98, 99, whenever they claim it happened. This is what the state must prove. And so far, they haven't even done that. And I don't know how many more witnesses they are lining up. If someone is coming in to say, well, I was at a party with Chris in 2003, where he said, don't you know what happened to my first wife? And that's an admission of guilt. That's a weaker statement than Karen Reed called a DUI lawyer when she thought she was being arrested for a DUI as admission of guilt. Because he could also have said, oh, you don't know me? Don't you know what happened to my first wife? That's why I'm single. That's why I'm here alone. Because after that tragedy, I couldn't do it anymore. I have solely focused on my kids ever since my wife was killed. Or did he say, don't you know what happened to my wife? Do you want to be chopped to pieces? There's a big difference in words. Does the Twitter School of Law count? No, Twitter School of Law do not count. YouTube's law school of law and stuff. Me and Mo are the headmasters, and for a small fee, you can join that school. So if you want to know all about the law and stuff, join us. We will have guest lecturers by Daryl Brooks, Bradley Yawn, Sarah Boone, all of the most prolific pro se advocates out there. So join us on the YouTube School of Law and Stuff. Uh, The issue here is the judge lets everything the prosecution present unlawfully into evidence. The defense weren't given materials the prosecutor is using. That's another big problem in this case, yes, because apparently, if this is such a strong case that podcasters out there, and I'm using podcasters in the broadest terms, we can also call them law tubers or true crime channels or whatever you want, all of them. If it's so strong that they have been on this case for now 2015, 10 years, and they know exactly what happened, and they have proven this happened because they have made an episode on it. Why does the state have to turn over evidence, have surprise witnesses come in, do trial by ambush? That's not something you do if you have the case, if you have the law, if you have the facts. You don't find 60 pieces of evidence doing cross-examination. If you have all your ducks in a row, you don't have a witness you talk to 2 days before she's about to take the witness stand. Those things would have been done before. And you can then say, well, this is just how they run their show in Fulton County. Fulton County is the worst in the world, and I believe so. But this is trial by ambush, and normally when you see that, it's because they have a weak case. They know they don't have the goods. So far, we have had a VHS tape that's missing. We have had half the police reports are missing. We have had timelines that makes no sense if you try and put them together. The mom's timeline doesn't add up with the sister's timeline. The sister's timeline doesn't add up with the DA's office timeline. The neighbor's timeline doesn't add up with any timeline because there's a kid missing when she saw her out in the street. So this is not a case that's 27 years old. That is 100% airtight. And if someone out there have claimed that on a podcast, on a YouTube show, on a whatever show, you need to stop watching them. I'm sorry. Because there's so much reasonable doubt in this. Again, they can't even agree on when she disappeared. The state can't provide any evidence. They have people where they say, didn't he steal a saw? I don't remember that. Well, didn't you remember it back when someone, he might have borrowed it and not brought it back? So that technically that's theft. Yeah, so he stole a saw. But was that saw stolen exactly at that time? And do we know she was cut up with this type of saw? We don't know. Apparently, they had people who know Fulton better than I do, but apparently they had a big data leak in 2018 or a big hacker attack or something. Sweet. You mean a YouTube presentation? I mean whatever. It's just because I have been told today that I'm not something, and I'm like, but it doesn't matter. Anyone who cover this shit, we're all the same. Someone has a nicer office and can afford an editor. I have a bleeding ulcer and 3 mods who yells at me 24/7. But we're still the same. We're trying to cover a case, and I'm just saying there's no facts in this case that can substantiate the claims been made so far. And go back and listen to the state's opening statements. If you have a good case as the state, you'll put it out there. You'll say, we will show you. We will call witnesses who heard Chris threaten people saying, don't you know what happened to my wife? We will show you that this woman, who was always a loving daughter to her mom, who sent her postcards, all of a sudden stopped. She fell off the planet when she normally would be in close contact with her family. This same shitty family doesn't know when she went missing because they didn't care about her. That's the truth. They didn't care till 2015. Well, her dad said when he was arrested, "Find my daughter." Oh, yeah. This hitman who killed 5 people, well, some of them were bad. Yeah. No reasonable doubt anywhere in this case. It's just me who's wrong. Streamers without an editor is called a blogger. But I don't blog. I don't have a blog. The mom wanted immunity, not to find her daughter. Yeah, the mom, the only thing she wanted was not to go to prison. Not because she wanted to be to find her daughter. No, just to not go to prison. I don't know if that's the truth, and I don't know if this is a deep-seated thing that they really want to figure it out now. The mom she can begin to smell the dirt from her grave. She's probably falling off the planet at some point. So maybe she wants justice before she goes. But instead of harassing the popo to get justice, she goes on a true crime podcast. And that true crime podcast apparently has an in with the DA's office. And the DA's office picks this case because it's easy to solve. And they put that podcaster on that subcommittee or that special unit to do cold cases. So back to my original statement an hour and a half ago. Is this a family looking for justice for their daughter? Or is it just as much a podcaster who might have tainted this case by giving a witness false memory? I haven't seen enough. Some of you have. 4% Friday had seen enough to find him guilty, which is fine. I'll fight for my persuasion, but I'm fine with you having another one. But based on what you have seen in court, there's no way you can convince me that you have seen enough. You might have watched the show on, I don't know, whatever, YouTube, television, whatever, and believe because you watched that show, he's guilty. But that TV show is just as much to do with the crime as my YouTube channel. There's nothing presented in court so far that gives me the feeling that Chris is credible as the culprit. To me, it seems like the classic, well, the spouse did it. That show you watched, did they tell you that Chris has cooperated all the time with the investigation? He have given 3 DNA samples. He have given hair samples. He even given pube samples, which you don't normally give. So he has cooperated, but because he hit 24 years after, he's guilty. Wouldn't it have been more a red flag if he had said, "No, I don't want to give you my blood. You have to get a court order for that"? He cooperated with everything. His story is going to be interesting. I don't know if he's going to take the stand. According to the opening statement, she was banging someone else. She had moved out. She signed away her kids. What is the reason he should kill her then? Normally, there are 2 reasons why men will kill a woman. jealousy or the threat of losing your kids. Both of these are gone in this case because he had the kids. She didn't even sign her kids over to her shitty parents. She signed them over to his. So he had access to the kids. And jealousy, it didn't seem like he was especially hot-headed over Dixon being in her life. If you take these two things away from the equation and you base all of it on someone saying, well, there was TV in the family. There was. They were yelling. She might have had some marks around her neck at one point. And he might have said, I know how to make someone disappear. So do I. And I still haven't been caught for any of my crimes. So I just can't see how you can run a case on these evidence, because unless you have a witness who will come in and say, Chris was out every single night looking for her because he didn't want her in those streets. Could it be Chris's defense is correct when they said, well, they weren't even living together, but if he filed a missing persons report, she would be in trouble because she was supposed to be at his address with her parole. So she would go back to prison if he turned her in. Or is it only, well, he's accused, he must be guilty? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Hey, Ginger. Well, that's why I took grifter and made it into a joke, because Plevin and all of these idiots were like, oh, you're just a grifter. Yeah. Do you know how hard you need to work to be a grifter? My total income for 90 minutes of work is $7. It's not like us grifters make a ton of money, even though they want to say, yeah, you're just doing it for the money. No, I'm doing it because I'm actually quite surprised how shitty Fulton County is. And I'm quite surprised this case ever hit a courtroom. There must be something that we haven't seen that convinced a judge that this had legs to run on. And I just can't see it. I really can't see any of it. It's sad to think, but if her life was drug-filled, it could be a street worker thing. Could be a street worker. That could be why she had those injuries that the mom claims she had seen. We haven't had a medical report. So again, it's, believe me, testimony. It could be because her dad was connected to the Dixie Mafia and someone wanted to send a signal, and they knew that Tina was his favorite. The crack wars in the 90s were not for the faint of hearted, especially if you had some of the South American gangs running against you. They went far. It could be her new boyfriend who was jealous. She wanted to go back to Chris to be together with the kids. It could be Chris because she had a new boyfriend. It could be the dad because she was getting in too deep, and she already been to prison once, and she knew about the family's business. So maybe tie a loose end. It could have been a drug deal gone bad. It could have been an OD. That's 7 different things I could have mentioned so far. That's reasonable doubt. That's why I can't find this man guilty with what's been presented so far in the courtroom. There's so much reasonable doubt that you have to have a pre-established view on this case to say, with these 2 days in court, I believe he's guilty. Because anyone who watched this case with us in the raw like we do, you can't come to the conclusion that they have presented enough evidence. Maybe they will Monday. Maybe everything turns around Monday. I said the same in the Sarah Boone case. I said, what the hell is the prosecution doing? It was the worst case I've ever seen in the best case you could have. And then they came back on redirect and they just smashed her. I don't know. Well, but that's not true. That's I read the same in the articles, but that's not true. That hasn't been proven that she was never seen again. Because who knew that? No one saw any of that. Because if you read the articles, the family was over there days after she disappeared. It was like 7 days after Thanksgiving in the article I read. And she wasn't there and all of her stuff was gone. But in reality, she talked to her mom around Thanksgiving, which is in November, I think someone told me. And they didn't come looking for her till sometime in February. No one knows when she left the house. People know where she was in September because she was in prison in September. But no one knows when she left the house. We don't even have a clear timeline of that time where Chris left the house. That was sometimes around Christmas. So if anyone tells you this is what happened, I thought that too. Until we started this trial, I thought they had talked with her at Thanksgiving. 7 days later, they came to the house and everything was gone. But that's just not true. And no one has claimed that in this trial so far. The closest we have is the rent man made street woman go over and clean it up, and it was sometime around New Year's. And what she found in the house was kids' clothes and men's clothes, which to me indicates if he unalived her and ran, didn't run that far because he stayed in the Atlanta area, but he ran away right after he unalived her. Why did he dispose of all of her clothes and all of her belongings? I know they will have the daughter come in and say, well, one day I remember clearly all of my mom's stuff was gone. That daughter was 2 or 4 years old at the time. She has no clear memory of that. Anything she clearly remembers has been imprinted on her during the last 25 years. I think she's 27 years old now, but I might be I don't know. But this woman will come in and testify, and there's no way she remembers that one morning I woke up and all of mom's stuff was gone. And remember, according to the defense, and the state didn't object to that, not one drop of blood, not one skin cell, not one positive luminal reading, nothing that says where she was dismembered. Did he do it at the house without waking up the kids and all the neighbors who could clearly hear them yelling at each other? Trust me, it takes some time to get through a body. How did he transport her? Nothing in his car. Did he steal a car to do it? Where's the torso? And why would he be dumb enough to dump it across the road from his work? He wasn't even working there. Well, potentially he was, but that's another timeline we don't add up. And again, why did the sister say in a police report at the time that she saw her sister in 1999 April when they looked for her in 1999 February? Was it a misstatement? Could well have been. But it's closer to the real date of it happening. I'm just saying there's nothing anywhere close enough for me to say guilty on this one. There's so much reasonable doubt that I have a hard time being convinced otherwise. And thank you so much, Holly Mac, for helping a grifter out. I used to have. Where the hell is my? Have you tried cleaning your desk? Shut up, Marissa. Gifting membership to Mr. Ketchup himself. Wiggy Hatherley, maybe Penny Alida Pani. Sorry, I'm going to ruin this. Alida Pagina, I think, and Simi Sharp. Well, that's better than being blunt. But thank you so much, Holly. And welcome to a subscription if you haven't had one before. I don't really do much for my members because I like to keep it as open as possible. So I don't really do members only streams. I'll release videos earlier for members. So you'll get them a little bit earlier if you're up early or living in Europe. I don't even charge you to be on my Discord. I would love to have you on my Discord so you get notifications whenever we go live. And on the Discord, there's movie night tonight, maybe, I don't know, at 4 p.m. And because Jamie isn't here, I don't know what movie it is. Hey, Indigo, how are you doing? What is my impression of the mother who insists on mispronouncing her own daughter's name? Even the daughter says her name is Christina, but she says Tina. Well, Tina is Christina shortened. My sister's name is something close to Christina, and we call her Chris. So if they call her Tina instead of Christina, I don't know, weird nicknames. I have a daughter named after the Nordic god of love and strife, and we never call her by her name either. Nicknames are nicknames. I was called Bimse by my parents. I don't know why, but that was my nickname, and my mom called me that till she died. My name is nowhere near that, and so I don't know. But my take on the mother is I don't find her believable. And again, that's why I wanted to do this stream. I think a lot of this has been evolving with the talks with different podcasters, different television stations to try and fit a story. They have been squaring the round peg. Is the take I'm taking, and I can be deadly wrong. I don't believe in body language, and you can read people because I don't know her baselines. But I'm just saying, as a person seeing her for the first time, like a juror would, I don't find her highly believable because I didn't find her story matched her story about all the notes she would get, and then all of the writing looks different on all of the notes. The story about how Tina would never call, she would drop off stuff at her house, seems to me like this family, they didn't keep contact that much. So I find her not trustworthy, especially because it wasn't until 2015 her and Tina started looking really for the murderer, because it coincided with that 13-year rule in the Atlanta life in prison conviction. So I don't find the family believable. And that's the problem, because I base that off of their contact with whatever this Zone 7 is, a podcast, a blog, whatever you will call it, and that they have already signed a Netflix deal. As a grifter, I can only say, hey, I hope you got paid up front, so no matter what the outcome is, you'll get your money. But if you testify after you have made a monetary arrangement with a third party, I have a hard time believing your testimony, because your testimony will then directly influence your income. This is why I am a bad grifter, because do you know how much more I would make if I started doing I better put a banner on, because someone will clip this and take it out of context. just so no one comes in and say, well, I heard. If I had started my introduction video last week was saying, hey, everyone, this case is a horrible case. We have a case out of Fulton County, Georgia, and you know how Fulton County is to begin with. It's a horrible place where the DA's office is worse than a criminal in the street. But this is a very dark case because this family is trying to pin a murder of their youngest daughter, Melissa, on her former husband, Chris. But in reality, does that dead baby in the hamper not signal something to you? I'm not one to say the word PDF file, but if the dad can unalive 5 people, 2 of which he claims were doing bad stuff, did they give those kids away to strange men? Did they have an income? Is this what Tina was about to go out and spill the beans on? That the dad and mom either gave them to other men, or perhaps the father was the father of the unborn baby that Tina was carrying when she disappeared, and the baby she found in the hamper when she was only 11 years old. Are they, because they have been brainwashed by this charismatic serial killer, are they in reality covering up a PDF ring? You have to watch this trial. Will we get the truth? It has all the hallmarks, and trust me, I have done cases with kids in Danish court systems. You can tell the signs when you see the signs. But will the prosecution railroad an innocent man to cover up a heinous crime? If I had done that last week, I would have blasted the shit out of everyone else, because if someone loves a story, it's a good PDF story. And hey, who cares if you accuse someone of PDF without having any proof of anything? The grift is real, you know? So that's how you sell it. Was my dad named Broken Senior? No, it was Jørn. Jørn Torben. I don't know who Keith Morrison is. But no, that's the big problem in this online world. Some people will do that because they know it sells and it's bullshit. And they will have no repercussion because there's no one who's going to talk about it, but they can sit and tell their audience, you know, I know what the real story is. Dateline, dude. I don't know Dateline. What's Dateline? I don't watch your fancy TV, Sue. Oh, tonight, Midsummer, which is a movie about Sweden, is the first movie, and then they're gonna watch Cheerleader Camp. Well, the Danish way with a GE. It's fake news and it's awesome. So it's leaning the opposite way of one of you. So it's probably I don't know. I can't watch it. It's not something we have. Yes, the family is the one getting paid by Netflix, and this is why I say I can't trust the testimony, because they have a direct influence on their income. This is one of those things where that should have been declared by the common. I've been covering Can't Read so much. I'm saying Commonwealth. But you need to declare that, because it'll come up on cross and it'll make your witness look shady. This is, again, a bad job by the DA's office. This is one of those basic things you do. You will do the, hey, just to put it out all out there, you have had an income for going on podcasts. Some podcasters will pay you to come on a podcast. Other will pay an exposure. That got me in hot water yesterday. I'm not going to say that again. Maybe bring up that, okay, you have signed a deal with Netflix to cover this case. Is that true? Yes. How much money are you making? We're going to make 20,000. We're going to make 5,000, whatever it is. Put it out there, because now you set it up for the cross-examination. First question. So, are you really here to find who killed your daughter? Or are you here to make money? Instantly ruins people's credibility. Yeah. No, I'm not live. It's Sunday. I never stream on Sundays. I'm a good Christian boy, so I can't stream on Sundays. Jamie won't let me. Expert, you need to get a hold of Lacey and help her out. She has some trouble. You're closer. Yeah, it's one of those mistakes you shouldn't be doing. It's really stupid that you when you have a shitty thing, you know the defense is going to bring up. You bring it up and you paint it in a rosy light. It's not that hard. You sell it as best as you can, because then you'll take the sting out of it for the defense. But I think that was about that. Is anyone live I can redirect to? I think I'm going to jump off and go make myself some dinner, because it's 5:30 already. And tomorrow, remember, it's a late start date tomorrow. We will be going at 10:30, so a little before 10:30 Eastern is when we are going to go back to court. The judge had some things she had to go cover. You're not interested in going to see the Attitude Era WWE. That's the only one. Oh, I can send you over here. I'm going to send you all over to our new good friend, the Happy Angry Lawyer. He has a show, but it's not till tonight. But then you can go and give him a subscriptions and get ready to watch him tonight, because that'll be right around when we are done watching movies on the Discord. So go enjoy your Sunday. Don't get mad because I don't agree with you in how you see cases. I won't get mad at you because of how you see cases. Stay off the twat. Don't get into drama like the idiot I am. And enjoy the rest of the day. If I can get out of bed, I'll try, but I'm no promises. I'll try to do a late night show tonight if I can wake up, but no promises.
Oh my gosh, you guys! There's a class called Basic Grifting. Should we all learn how to